Imagine being in a relationship where one day you're her king, her soulmate, the love of her life, and the very next day you're the villain, the enemy, the person she claims has ruined her life. The cycle is so intense it leaves you questioning not just her, but yourself, maybe even your own sanity. And this is what happened to my client, and maybe the same thing is happening to you. I'm Lise Leblanc, therapist, author, and life coach, and today I'll walk you through 5 signs that a woman may have both borderline and narcissistic personality disorder, or at least very high traits of these two disorders. If you've ever felt like you're dealing with two completely different women in the same body, this will help you understand why. In part 1 of this video series, I explain the first 3 signs, which are identity whiplash, panic that turns to punishment, and self-awareness that vanishes in thin air. But you don't have to have seen part 1 to follow along here, and I will link part 1 at the end of this video so that you can go back and watch it. Okay, so let's dive into the next 5 signs. So, point number 4 is conversations that trap you. With borderline only, conversations circle around emotions. Do you love me? Are you going to abandon me? Am I safe with you? And you're thinking you're soothing her fear of losing you, but really her trauma has been reactivated and she's projecting that fear onto you. The thing to understand is that it's not really about losing you specifically. It's about re-experiencing the terror of abandonment that comes from her core wound. No matter how much reassurance you give, it will not heal that fear. So the questions and accusations never end. With narcissism only, conversations are all about control and image. Who am I in your eyes? Do I look good to others? Do I still have the upper hand here? So, what you think is solving a problem is really a test of whether you're feeding her ego and protecting her reputation. With both borderline and narcissism together, it's constantly shifting. One moment she's clingy, begging for reassurance, and the next, you're expected to feed her ego and uphold her victim self image. Comfort her, but don't contradict her. Validate her, but never challenge her. For you, it feels like there is no safe way to talk because every conversation turns into a trap and the rules are always shifting. No matter what you say or don't say, you always end up failing the test. Point number 5 is empathy that turns into a weapon. With borderline only, she can show surprising levels of empathy for animals, for children, for other people, and even for you when she's not emotionally triggered. And in those moments, her empathy often feels deeper than most. And when she's calm and realizes she's hurt you, she often feels remorse and genuinely wants to repair. The problem is, even with this empathy, the cycle still repeats. Her emotional flooding overrides her intentions, so despite her best efforts, she can't stop herself from saying and doing the same hurtful things over and over again. When it's narcissism only, empathy is very shallow and strategic. It's usually for show, to protect her image, or to get something she wants. When it's borderline and narcissism together, empathy gets quite confusing because she can read you with accuracy, notices your vulnerabilities, and mirrors your emotions and meets your needs so closely that you feel deeply seen. But then when she's triggered, those same insights flip into weapons. Everything you've shared in trust, your fears, your insecurities, your wounds, can suddenly be hurled back at you with precision. So it's impulsive at times, cruel and calculated at other times, and you never know what you're going to get. Point number 6 is jealousy that becomes control. With borderline only, jealousy is fueled by fear of abandonment. And this isn't just, I'm worried you'll leave me. It's raw panic that explodes into outbursts and impulsive behavior designed to test whether you'll stay. She might blow up your phone if you don't answer immediately, accuse you of cheating over nothing, or even flirt with someone else just to see if you'll fight for her. It's chaotic, desperate, and driven by that terror of being abandoned. With narcissism only, jealousy isn't about losing you, it's about losing their source of supply. She sees you as her possession, and any attention, admiration, or resources you give to someone else threatens her sense of dominance, ownership, and superiority. So her reaction isn't about panic, it is cold, harsh punishment. She might shame you, demean the other person, or pull away affection until you fall back in line. When both borderline and narcissism are in play, jealousy hits from all sides. One moment, she's explosive, demanding proof of your loyalty, raging over imagined betrayals, baiting you into defending yourself. The next, she's cold and calculated, policing who you talk to, twisting the story to make you look untrustworthy, punishing you for humiliating her in public. For you, it's like living under a microscope where love and loyalty are never enough and are always used against you. Number 7 is entitlement that turns boundaries into betrayal. With borderline only, entitlement is usually emotional. She feels owed your time, your attention, and your constant reassurance and validation. And if you don't answer right away, if you can't drop everything to calm her panic, she sees it as abandonment. With narcissism only, entitlement is broader. She feels owed not just your attention and validation, but your resources, your admiration, and your compliance. And if you say no, she sees it as defiance, and the response is retaliation. With both borderline and narcissism, she doesn't just expect you to meet her emotional needs and provide for her practically and financially. She demands that you regulate her moods, protect her image, and prioritize her needs above everything else. You're supposed to be her therapist, her caretaker, her ATM, her cheerleader, everything all at once. And if you set a boundary, she sees it as abandonment and betrayal. First comes the borderline panic. You don't care about me. You're abandoning me. Then the narcissistic defenses slam into place. How dare you disrespect me? Now you're going to pay for it. Point number 8 is idealization and love bombing. So with borderline only, idealization is raw, unfiltered, and deeply emotional. In those moments, she truly believes you're her soulmate and she pours every ounce of herself into you. She's nurturing, needy, surrendering completely, clinging to you, declaring that you are her entire world. None of this is calculated. It's survival. The intimacy is so deep, it can feel transcendent, almost like a fusion of souls, because merging with you temporarily soothes her emptiness and it soothes her terror of being abandoned. But that very same intensity can flip really quick, and that idealization collapses into devaluation. With narcissism only, the intensity looks similar on the surface, but the engine underneath it is very different. This is love bombing, sometimes automatic, often deliberate, and always aimed at securing admiration, quick trust, and control. The flattery, the gifts, the poetic messages, they're not about connection, they're about securing supply. Seduction is conquest and getting the upper hand so that they can feel more secure. With both borderline and narcissism together, one moment you feel like you're experiencing divine, once in a lifetime connection and intimacy, emotions so intense you know that they can't be faked, and the next it shifts into textbook love bombing, hollow gestures designed to reel you back in after she's punished you or pushed you away. So, when a woman has both borderline and narcissistic personality disorder, you're caught in the crossfire of these two opposing systems. The borderline side that clings out of sheer panic, spiraling into desperation and dysregulation, and the narcissistic side that clamps down and projects her shame onto you to protect her mask. It's a war between panic and contempt, vulnerability and control. And the collision doesn't just exhaust you, it destabilizes your entire sense of self and your sense of reality. And this isn't just theory, you can see it in real life. Remember the client I told you about in part one? His girlfriend kept cycling between idealizing him, devaluing him, and then discarding him, only to come back begging and then raging again, ending the relationship. And each time the cycle got faster, more extreme, more intense, until he started having panic attacks, something that he'd never experienced before. So finally, he decided it was time to end it for good. He went no contact. And sure enough, the messages started pouring in again. You're the only man I've ever deeply loved. I can only dream of what could have been. This classic idealization, guilt tripping, and tethering to a fantasy future is typical. And he thought to himself, now that I've learned so much about borderline and narcissism, maybe I'll be able to handle her better this time around. And again, he went back. And I'm sure that you can already guess how this story ends because it is very easy to see when it's someone else's situation and relationship. But make sure that you subscribe and hit the notification bell because in part three, I will tell you exactly what happened next. And more importantly, I'll walk you through the last two signs that a woman has borderline and narcissism, including the false hope trap and how to break free and start recovering from this toxic cycle for good. If you are struggling to break free from a toxic relationship, consider reaching out to a therapist in your area who specializes in cluster B personality disorders, and consider taking my toxic relationship recovery program to get the tools and the resources that you need to finally step out of the chaos and start rebuilding your life. If this video resonated with you, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. And to watch part one of this video series, click on the link above.